So, Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you are joining us from different parts of the world. A very, very warm welcome to each of you. My name is Dr. Sohaila Chima. I'm the Assistant Dean for the Institute for Population Health and also an Associate Professor of Clinical Population Health Sciences here at Weill Cornell, Medicine-Qatar. So, we warmly welcome you to today's session, and you're attending the Health and You Community Wellness Series. And again, as many of you may know who attended in the past, the overall goal of the series is really to create community awareness about health and disease. And what we want to do is really with the objective that you'll be able to achieve enhanced self-care. We want to reduce suffering, improve the quality of life, and increase healthy longevity. So just as a reminder, this is not a CME, a continuing medical education, or a continuous professional development learning opportunity. The audience for this is supposed to be the general public. So just some housekeeping, your cameras and microphones have been turned off. You can use the question and answer tab in which you can post your questions or comments. You can actually also just post your questions and your comments in the chat feature also. We will still be able to see them. We'll address the questions at the end of the session, and I'll be moderating the session. Again, this is not a CME CPD activity, so no certificates of attendance will be issued. So coming on to the topic and our speaker for today, tomorrow, of course, as you all know who live in Qatar, that we are celebrating the National Sports Day. So we are really, really excited to have this session today with our esteemed speaker. And it gives me great pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Mohamud Verjee, who's going to be talking about physical activity and well-being. And he will provide an exciting guide on the latest, guidelines for physical activity, sporting activity, and he's going to make you rationalize and mobilize, and then ultimately, hopefully, you'll end up moving towards physical activity. To introduce Dr. Verjee, he graduated from the University of Dundee in Scotland, United Kingdom. He's a practicing physician, he's an educator, a researcher, writer, and motivational speaker. His interests are manifold, including narrative medicine, cardiology, endocrinology, restoring preventable blindness, lifestyle medicine, communication skills, teaching empathy, poetry, and applying art and music to medicine. He was clerkship director in family medicine at the University of Calgary in Alberta, Canada, from 2003 to 2007. And he has been a clerkship director of the primary care clerkship here at Weill Cornell Medicine-Qatar from 2007. He's an Harvard Macy Institute alum, which comes to us from Boston, Massachusetts in the United States. He has also graduated with an MBA in leadership and sustainability in 2016 from the University of Cumbria, England, United Kingdom, and he was appointed as a senior research fellow in mental health in 2017 at Clare College, Cambridge University, England. Dr. Verjee, a very, very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for doing this session today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sohaila. I'm just going to share my screen. Good afternoon to you all. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. I think that sometimes we think about our health, and a lot of the times we don't think about our health. So today, hopefully, I'll provide some questions and answers to your concerns, and let's see how we go throughout the session. I have no conflicts of interest to declare. So really, let's start off with saying, what is health? I mean, we use the term very liberally, but I would actually put it into 4 areas. I consider 4 areas. The first one is physical well-being, and these are not in order of priority. These are something we must consider. Then there's mental well-being, and there's social well-being. When we actually get up and go to work, we don't really think of those as components, but we actually know when we're not physically well, we know when we're mentally stressed, and we know when there's a social problem, maybe in the family, maybe at work, maybe with issues in the world right now. But what actually is important is health itself, which I would regard as a priority in life for everybody. I'm going to go back and ask you if your school arranged physical activities. Certainly mine did. I haven't been to school for a long time, so I'm not sure what their regime is right now. But certainly you'll see people in their school grounds running around making a noise and what have you. And that's probably good that they actually do exercise in their own way. More structured organization includes football, soccer, maybe swimming, uh, and running and athletics. And more recently, we've had the Aquatics Championship in Doha, Qatar, which is a privilege. And I'm not sure if any of you have been to see that, but that takes a lot of training as well. The question really is, if you did have that kind of activity, did you continue to pursue that? Did you exercise after leaving your school at that time? Many years ago for some, for me a long time ago, but for some very recently. And ask the further question, how physically active are you today? Now, that doesn't mean just simply walking around and when you go to the mall and you say, oh, I'm going to take the steps today rather than the elevator. It really means a pursuit of activity. Walking is fine, but there is also much, much more to physical activity from which you can benefit. And if you are doing what you're doing, keep doing it if you enjoy it. And if not, why not? Ask yourself, why am I not? Why am I complaining about my clothes getting a bit tighter? Why am I feeling a bit more tired and less energy? You know, all those questions that you may have posed in your mind. So what motivates you to do some activity, to exercise? And is your family involved? And they're very important, you know, because they can actually stimulate you. Sometimes they're not able to join you, but certainly that doesn't stop you from individually doing some activity during the day. Are we still using the excuses, oh, I'd love to do some exercise, but you really, you know, I haven't got enough time right now, I'll do it later on. Or maybe more bluntly, I'm just too busy to do that right now, maybe later. Or after work, well, I've been working hard all day and I really need a break, you know, sit on the couch and some coffee and a bite to eat. Or I want to watch that TV program, and then you end up being a couch potato. Or for some, I can't do anything because so-and-so is coming around, we've got some homework to do. Well, these are all very reasonable things to think about, but it's not getting you any exercise. So I actually would put it to you that exercising with activity is something that you should develop as a habit. Now, it doesn't matter what age you are, and I'm over 60 now, so it's particularly important. One of my activities was squash, and I actually was very, very pleased to learn how to play squash when I was 15, and I played it ever since. But it's not a sport for everybody. You need to pick something which you like doing, and you enjoy doing, and preferably in company. So if you actually schedule a part of the day where you can devote that to activity, even if you're young, even if you're middle-aged, or if you're older, shall I say. And it doesn't mean to say that older people have lots of time. They too have to plan. Now, what level of activity should you pursue? Well, I can tell you right now, you do not have to be a sports fanatic. And neither do you have to spend a lot of money and subscribe to a gym. I'm sorry to say this, but a lot of people will say, oh, I am a member of a gym. But you say, well, what do you do there? Well, you know, there are lots of machines there, and you can stretch your legs and stretch your back and stretch your arms. And there's a treadmill, and there's a cycle and all the rest of it there. And there are weights. It sounds grand. It sounds good. You go to any gym, you'll see all that. If you go to a hotel for a vacation, you'll see mostly gyms in their facilities. But when you actually do go to the gym, and I actually have to say that I live in a compound which has something like 200 houses there. When I go to the gym, I rarely find a single person there. And sometimes when I do go, that, we're the only two people that are there the whole time. This thing about gyms is up to you. I'm not saying don't join one. It's entirely up to you. But you can do so much at home as well. You can actually simply use 2 tins of food and lift them up each side and do some weight training that way. Or you can actually put your feet underneath the couch and do some pull-ups and abdominal stretches and what have you. There's all sorts of ways that you can do something and sustain it. I think one of the things I enjoy the most is when I discovered how to plank. And if you know the word plank, you'll know exactly what I mean. If you haven't heard of planking, it's basically supporting your body weight on your feet, and usually to start off with on your elbows. Then later on, when you get more proficient and stronger, you can actually have a straight arm. And that means not only are you stretching holding your whole weight on your arms and your feet, but initially just use your elbows there because it's not so high and it does take some training. So it actually exercises every muscle in your body. Now, I'm not saying that you should rush out and plank because you shouldn't. You need to know what to do. You need to take it slowly and do a build-up. So you may do it for 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 15 seconds, and gradually build up over the course of several weeks. You need to do them in a series of 3. You might need to do 2 sets a day, in the morning when you get up, then you have a shower, or in the evening. Not before you go to bed. You do not want to get yourself all tense and sweaty before you go to bed. Pick your times. And it really doesn't take very long at all. But for me, that's something I got into a habit to do. And that's something else you can do. Obviously, you can't run around, play squash at home, or you can't play soccer at home, or at least not in the house. So walking, running, swimming, cycling, playing soccer, lifting weights, and isometric exercise. You know what that is. You can do it in your office. All you do is you apply your hands of force to the desk, which is not going to move, and you press on it. You press on it hard and press really firmly and then release. Press again and release. You don't move. You feel the pressure in your arms. It's arm strengthening, and the desk doesn't move, at least I hope not. And then you can do it the other way. Put your hands underneath the desk, which is what I'm doing right now, and trying to lift it. It's too heavy for me to lift. So again, you're using the other side of your arms to strengthen your muscles. And that's important. You can use exercise bands. You can do stretches in your chair. And I'm going to tell you, remind me if I don't tell you how to do it. There's one particular exercise at the end of this presentation, which I'm actually going to, or test, not an exercise, which actually will give you an idea of how well you're doing this with respect to fitness. So if you want to extend yourself a little bit further, and it doesn't matter what age you are, you can play the growing sport of pickleball, which is very gentle. It combines perhaps the skills of tennis and squash and table tennis, and it does require skill. You actually can try bowling, but bowling here, you have to be careful to make sure you don't fool around and drop a ball and then bash your toe. You don't want to be casual about it. You need to be committed and know what to do. Recently, I tried a new sport, which was kayaking, and that was up at Ruwais, the top of the peninsula, going through the mangrove swamps. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful day. We got there, my son and I got there early in the morning at 7 a.m. We had the place virtually all to ourselves. The tide was up, the water was good. You could see the fishes, you could see the plants, and you could see the mangroves growing through the floor. This is also helping you, not just with exercise, but with mental well-being, relaxing, enjoying yourself, what have you. So try something. Even climbing stairs is better than a lift, although I was perhaps a little bit flippant earlier on in my presentation. But it is. If you actually do something like 10 flights of stairs of at least 14 steps upwards daily, that actually will strengthen your legs. It will actually make you feel a little bit uncomfortable by the time you get to the 10th if you do them consecutively in a row. And you'll feel a little bit of pain in your leg as you'll say, I'm feeling tired now, I don't want to do any more. So don't hurt yourself, don't feel pain. Just again, train yourself to do 2, 3 steps, maybe 5 steps in a few days' time, and then actually gradually increase it until you get to a minimum of 10. And then you will find when you do 10 walking steps up 14 steps, you will find that your legs don't hurt anymore. And that actually shows your growing fitness, your muscle capability, and your strength improving. Okay, be careful if you actually have a slippery floor or that kind of stuff, and be careful when you come down. You don't want to skip down and then trip and then have a problem at the bottom. You do basically simply go up the steps, come down, go up the steps and come down. Sounds a bit tedious, but you can have some headphones on. I advise you very strongly not to use or look at your phone and do WhatsApp messages on the way up or on the way down. That actually can sometimes lead to a mistake in a step, and you know the consequences. Okay, so how much time should you incorporate or include for your physical activity daily? The question really is, how long is your activity going to benefit you for? And how many days a week? And for how long each day? So do you build in a specific time to say, this is my slot for doing my exercise, I'm actually going to do it, and it's a good idea to do part of that, at least in the morning, before you get going. So how many days a week? That should be a minimum of 5 days. I actually do 7 days, okay? And for how long each day? The answer to that is 30 minutes a day. That means 150 minutes minimum per week at moderate activity. Enough to exercise and build up a little bit of a sweat, but enough to hold a conversation if you're running or you're walking, or have a conversation and not be out of breath. If you're actually doing exercise and you're with a partner or with a company and you're actually exercising and you're trying to speak and you find that you can't get a complete sentence, you're overdoing it, all right? You need to be at that level where you're enjoying it, you're not hurting, and you can hold a conversation. But you're not just simply walking step by step. If you do very physical activity, and as I mentioned earlier, I play squash, then something like you double the impact by working energetically. And then with that kind of constant activity, you only have to do 75 minutes per week instead of 150. But 150 is the norm. Do you have an app on your phone? I think most of you, I would say a lot of you have a smartphone, you have an app, you might have a smartwatch. I'm not going to mention any trade names there, but we don't always use them properly. And you need to set it to the right settings. You can choose the exercise, you can turn on the activity, you record it. Most of them now have a pulse rate, some of them have a BP, some of them even have an ECG on those there, and you can see your heart rate increase. The important thing is to not stress your heart, but to raise it to a level where there is good activity and a reasonable heart rate increase. The normal pulse rate varies between about 72 to 80. And when you sleep at night, your pulse rate goes down maybe as low as 60 or so. That's part of your body's recovery, okay? And I actually keep my smartwatch on all the time, except of course when I have to go and shower. But most of them are waterproof too. You probably even wear them when you're swimming. But that records all the activity that you do, providing you set it correctly. And today they're very inexpensive. Now, the level activity, how many steps a day are optimal? I'm going to pause for a moment and ask you to think about that. How many steps daily at moderate level activity are optimal? Well, the figure 10,000 is the figure that always comes up, and it's very frequently suggested. Now, is that enough, or is that too much? And who actually says and can prove that 10,000 steps is the best figure? Well, the research shows that if you do and complete 6,000 steps of moderate activity, say in walking, that is sufficient to optimize your daily fitness benefit. If you do 10,000, fine, but the extra 4,000 doesn't really benefit you in the point of view of fitness. If you want to lose weight, if you want to actually get particularly fit for some important match, then you may need to do extra training. I'm not saying that doing 6,000 steps gets you fit for everything. But on an ordinary person's basis, men, women, and adolescents, there, 6,000 is probably the figure by research which shows above that you have no extra fitness benefit in the point of view of, say, should we say, really hammering it there. If you actually do get to a stage when you're doing 20,000 steps a day, you may actually be overdoing it and might be damaging yourself a little bit if you're not trained to do that. So doing 6,000 steps daily every day is the optimum figure. As I said before, you need to exercise moderately, moderate fast, so you can hold the conversation, for at least, sorry, spelling error there, 150 minutes per week, or as I had earlier said, 75 minutes for vigorous activity for at least 5 days a week. Okay, do you think you can manage that? If you build it into your schedule, on a daily schedule. So what else is important about fitness? Well, surprisingly, sleep is terribly underrated. It's so important. There are a lot of us who work very hard. We go to bed late. We work hard during the day. We go to bed late and we get up early and get going. And then, surprise, surprise, after a while, you say, I really feel tired. I really feel a bit irritable. I actually feel, don't feel so hungry. I have to get up in the night to go to the washroom and things like that. The importance of quality sleep is very underrated. How much sleep should you try and get daily? Well, you should aim for a figure, which I'm going to tell you in a moment. Are you an early riser? If you're an early riser, you may be a long lier in. Of course, if you've got a job to do, that may be not an option. But do you sleep in late? Do you get up early? And do you sleep later in the morning when you have a chance? Well, you should really aim for the figure of between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every night, every day, every night. Or every night, so every day. Less than 7 hours is not good, especially if you're under 5 hours. So you should aim for at least 7 hours. Now, 6.5 hours is reasonable. And then if you sleep more than 9 hours, you begin to decay. That sleep that you're just lying in bed and waiting there and having a bit of a toss and turn and saying, perhaps I'm going to stay in bed this weekend until 11 and have a good rest, is not going to do any harm. Because what happens is you're not active, you're not walking around, you're not doing anything, and the muscles are very demanding. They say, we want activity, we want some stress, we want to get going. Why aren't you moving? And they say, okay, that's if you have your way. If you want to wait, we'll just stay here. And the problem about that, without joking too much, is they begin to waste. They begin to atrophy. They actually lose muscle bulk by just simply not using them. If you have a fracture of your leg or an arm and it goes into a cast and you can't use it properly, when the cast is taken off, you'll see one leg is much thinner than the other because you haven't used the muscles. Similarly with the arm. So it's very important to keep up to at least 7 hours a day, even if you are working. And then at the weekend, it's the same. You get no benefit by staying in bed for 12 hours, especially when you actually have food in your bed and you have crumbs all over the place, and then you get shouted at. Losing 2 hours of regular sleep can reduce your body's natural immune response to fighting infections such as coughs and colds and other things, thereby up to 50%. So you sleep actually for 7 hours, you have maximum time to recover. If you sleep only for 5 hours, you probably lose quite a chunk of your natural immune defense. And that will make you unfit, not physically, it's like, in the sense of doing any harmful thing, but simply by physically, if you like, giving your body extra stress and strain so it can't recover. If you do lack sleep, if you actually don't get enough sleep, the steroids, the natural cycle that you have, those important part of your body's metabolism, which keep you going, they need to have a flush, if you like. And if you don't allow that sleep pattern, that sleep time to happen, they do not have time to recover. They maintain a higher level, and that makes you very much more vulnerable to stress and, sadly, depression. So this comes into mental health. So by not having good sleep, you can actually have the beginnings of a mental situation, mental health situation. The other thing is sleep hygiene. So having a room which is protected from outside noise, particularly traffic noise. If you live near any kind of major junction, you need to have the good thick curtains, and you may even need some earplugs there. But the other important thing is to avoid blue light. Blue light will actually stimulate your brain, especially if you're looking at blue light, blue screens, smartphones, TV, before you go to bed. You will not have a good sleep to start off with. And sleep is divided into various portions. The first part you get is rapid eye movement sleep, which is called REM sleep, and then you have deep sleep. And if you actually have a smartphone device or any kind of monitor, you can actually pick up those sleep patterns and it'll give you feedback on that. So disturbances, lights going on outside your room, noises, people in the house who are particularly noisy or don't respect others who are going to sleep, and those on shifts. People who work night shift are particularly vulnerable because people forget during the daytime that they need to sleep. So sleep is very important for your overall fitness. Now, what about nutrition? Well, we're not going to talk about a complete diet here, but if you actually don't sleep, you actually gain weight. Yeah, surprising. So less sleep means weight gain because of various things, including your steroids not being able to flush through to normal and wash out. So steroids will give you weight gain, and you'll gradually creep up and up. So if you actually sleep for 7 hours, 7 hours between 7 and 9 hours, that weight gain won't happen. You should always have regular meals. I'm an early riser myself. I'm usually up by 6:30, and I love to have my breakfast. Some people say I can't stand eating breakfast. I eat round about, whenever I eat, 11 o'clock. But I find that a lot of people who miss out breakfast completely get very cranky round about 10 or 11. Why? That's because you used up your reserves of your glucose, which is in your liver. You use it up. You've been actually not had anything to eat since the evening before, whether it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So you've not had anything, you missed breakfast, and you're working, gone to work, and it's now 11 o'clock. It means fasting for 14 hours. Now, if you do that consistently, you will find that your body will suffer. It needs a little bit of something in the morning. It needs a bit of protein, it needs a bit of carbohydrate, some cereals, perhaps an egg, or whatever. And I actually do believe strongly and advise breakfast for most people. If you can't tolerate it, then find another way to balance your regular meals. The other next thing is portion size control. Now, we're extremely lucky in Doha, where we have wonderful hotels and wonderful restaurants, and sometimes a buffet. This is something which you need to regard as a treat. Normally, you should have portion size control. And the secret here, I'll give it away for free. You don't have to subscribe to any stock holding companies or financial monetary firms. I'll give you this for free. The secret is to eat a portion size which is regular for you, which you manage. And when you get up from the table, you feel you could eat some more. That is the right time to stop eating, because the stimulus to the brain takes something like about 20, 25 minutes to say, hey, stop eating. The body has got enough. There's a delayed response. And if you keep helping yourself to more portions, you'll end up saying, phew, I'm really full now. And that actually is a bad sign. You should never actually get up from a meal table and say, I really couldn't eat another morsel. I couldn't eat anything more. I am so full. And that repeatedly as a habit will make you gain weight. It'll actually add stress to your body. It'll actually affect your fitness and your ability to pursue activity. And for every 5 pounds that you gain, you actually put on about 60 pounds of stress on your knees for that. So just for 5 pounds of weight, your knee has to sustain, both of them, something like about 60 pounds extra of pressure by walking and hitting the ground, striking the ground. And that will actually damage your joints eventually, and that'll eventually affect your fitness. I do advise you to think carefully. I believe you should have anything you want. If you want a donut or you want a piece of cheese, go ahead. But if you do have a donut, you've got to control yourself and say, I'm having a slice. And you've had that slice and you've enjoyed it. And that's it. I have actually done surveys and polls to see with audiences I've talked to, how many people here have had a donut? Everyone's hands goes up. How many have had two at one go? Most hands still go up. Three at one go, slightly fewer, but still a lot. And I go all the way to six. Six donuts, one after the other. You'd be surprised how many people are almost proud to say, I've had six in one go. And then I've got to the extreme. And I did get to an extreme one day when I went all the way up because the hands didn't go down until I had one person left who admitted, and but questioned them on this, that who had 12 donuts in a row at one sitting. Now, that is not a good habit to adopt at all. So you don't want things that are high in sugar, high in carbs, high in fat. And as you know, donuts are fried. Enjoy them, of course. Try them out, but be controlled and disciplined and just have a bit and have that as a treat. I also encourage a plant-based diet. I'm an enthusiast of lifestyle medicine, and I think that plant-based food can give you all the nutrients that you need, all the vitamins you need, and everything else, all the trace elements as well. I do actually advise that you don't have excessive amount of red meat. I believe that this can sometimes cause people to have bowel disturbances and upsets. Some of the red meat that we have is very high in fat. And also, when you think about it there, what is a substitute for meat? Though you can think about chicken, or you can think about other meats. Fish in particular is extremely healthy, particularly salmon. So have a variety, but I keep my meat intake to about 80 grams divided at least twice during the week. So I have enough protein to keep me going, enough of the necessary vitamins, and keep healthy, but I actually am not excessive because extra food, particularly extra protein, as you've seen possibly in the Japanese sumo wrestlers, they're enormous. I mean, they have about 10 or 12 pounds of steak per day for breakfast. Actually cook 10 to 12 pounds or something 5-6 kilos of beef or whatever in the morning, and then most of them die by the time they're in their early 50s. Very rare for a sumo wrestler to reach 60, and they're extremely unhealthy. But of course, they're sports heroes, and everyone loves watching that kind of activity. But it's not for us, not for us. Okay, and I do say this breakfast time is the time when you can eat carbs. You can have a slice of bread, you can have some rolls, or you can have, maybe if you treat yourself, to a small croissant. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, I hope that's everyone's not jumping up and down and saying, "Hey, get off, you're spoiling me. I don't want to listen to this anymore." No, hang on with me, please. And you can see the picture on the right there. That's a good array of stuff to consider. Avocados, by the way, are wonderful things to eat, as are blueberries, as are cranberries, as are all vegetables and fruit, and it depends which ones you like. Some of them actually need to be cooked in a special way to enjoy them more. I think one of mentioning one thing was sprouts. Sprouts are usually boiled, and they come out as mini cabbages, and they really are just boiled leaves and pretty tasteless. But if you roast sprouts and put a little bit of seasoning on them in the oven, like you would actually roast potatoes, but careful not to burn them, they taste delicious. So try and experiment with some of the things and the veggies that you've got. Now, what about non-communicable diseases? If I have diabetes, can I fast? The thing about, can I exercise rather? If I have diabetes, can I exercise? Of course you can. Can I fast? Yes, you can. But you need to actually have a plan of eating your meals around that. Ramadan's coming up, and there's no contraindication if you have diabetes, type 2, that is, to exercising or fasting. Type 1 diabetes is a little bit more tricky. That's the one by injection, and you need to consult your doctor about that to make sure you have proper control. What about this thing called body mass index? That should have a double S there. Sorry about the typo. And this thing called BMI, which is shortened to. Well, BMI actually is less important on its own than it used to be. And what is now more important is something called the waist-hip ratio measurement. And what does that tell you? Well, there's certain figures that actually you need to meet, and uh, for men and women it differs. So you actually find the maximum point of your hip and the maximum area of your waist, and you actually put those figures together, divide one by the other, and it gives you a figure. Now you need to have a figure which, if you can look us up on the internet, by the way, it's very easy, and there'll be diagrams as well. But look up waist hip ratio, and together with body mass index, that'll give you an idea of your shape and your body and how well you are. So if you actually have a waist measurement which is bigger than your hip measurement, then that's a cause for concern. Now, I have to say that women are built differently physically, and they usually have bigger hips than men. So if you have big hips, don't worry. But if you have big hips and you have a big waist, then that's a worry. Men often, unfortunately, try and minimize their big fat waist by pulling in a belt, which is very, very tight. And then they have a hangover on their belt and they're kidding themselves that they're thin. Can I take medications to reduce weight and still be healthy? Well, at the moment, there is a fad on, and it's the semaglutide gang, I call them. These are injections which you can give yourself, and they have a special name. I won't go into it because it's a bit technical. And they are supposed to make you lose weight. These medications are not the answer, are not a replacement for natural physical activity, control of your life, activity, good sleep, good exercise, good nutrition. These are medicines which may have, in the long term, side effects which we don't know about right now. I have a story about a drug medication that came out many years ago where one of my patients came in to ask me and said, I would like to have the new medication for weight loss. And I said to her, I'm very sorry, I'm not going to prescribe it because I'm not sure that it's safe. The whole track record of such medicines in the past has not been good. And this one, I haven't had enough experience to confidently prescribe it to you. So do you know what she said to me? She said, Dr. Verjee, you know what you are. You're a party pooper. A party pooper, I said. Well, thank you very much. She said, all my friends are having it. Why won't you give it to me? Oh, I suppose you explain why. Anyway, she stuck with me. She didn't leave my practice. She still stayed under my care. And about a year and a half later, she came back and she said, Dr. Verjee, I've come back to see you. There's nothing wrong with me. What I want to say to you is thank you, because the medicine that I asked for a long while ago, I said, I remember. She said, that's actually come out and it has serious side effects. And the serious side effects were very serious. And she said, thanks to you, I never had that medicine. Well, all my friends had that medicine, and now they're shaking with fear in case they actually develop a serious side effect. And what was the serious side effect? Well, it doesn't really matter what it was, but the treatment for that serious side effect, if it did happen, was a heart transplant. Well, we all felt vindicated, and she just wanted to thank me for that. And I think I actually thank my professors who taught me to be careful of prescribing medicines. So medicines are not the answer to reducing weight and still being healthy. You have to do it the hard way sometimes. Okay. Now, when does old age begin? And now that they say the new old age begins at 80, and some people say age is just a number. I'm going to finish off very, very shortly in the next minute or two. But this lady is, looking pretty well, pretty happy, and she's over 80. We are living older. We want to live older, but we want to live old to enjoy our life and not to actually be a victim of certain diseases, arthritis, diabetes, hypertension, blood pressure problems, and so on. You can do aerobic fitness. It's very important. It's very easy. You can do it on your own. You don't need a gym. You can do it in the park. You can do it at home. And you also help the structure and function of the brain, which is influenced by activity. The brain loves you to do exercise. It gets its own smack of excitement by when you actually do that, because it changes the hormones, the the neurotransmitters, the substances that will make your nerves work. Okay. Now, the last one here is when you do some exercise, you must hydrate. You must actually take some water and not all these special athletic sugary type stuff that they're sometimes advertised. Just simple water, about 30 minutes beforehand, warm up for about 5 minutes before exercising, and then you get warm up because you have to get yourself into the frame of warming up your muscles. If you got into a car and you put your foot down on an accelerator and expect to go from 0 to 80, it doesn't happen. Your body can't do that either. It can't sort of jump into gear and you take off. And you need to exercise at a comfortable pace so that you can talk as well as move, as mentioned. Focus on your activity, your balance, your stride, your body movement, they're all important. Balance is particularly important for everybody, but particularly those who are slightly older. And if you have exercised regularly, your muscles are strengthened, they bear your weight. But one of the biggest problems in elderly life, in elderly health, is having loss of muscle mass, getting weak legs, falling over, and having a fractured hip. And that sometimes leads to death. So Granny having been fine 2 weeks ago, fell over in the park, had to go to hospital, broke her hip, and then passed away from pneumonia. You need to actually think carefully and focus on your activity. Exercise helps you and it positively impacts your metabolic rate. Even when standing or stationary or getting up for the chair, your body needs balance, equilibrium, and it matters. And don't forget, after you finish your activity, to ease back and cool down after any exercise. Even when you turn your car off, it's still hot, it's still warm, the engine is still cooling down. You can sometimes make it hear it doing a click click as it cools off when you turn the engine off. That's the same, in a way, analogy to your body. Now, the trick I was going to say to you is to remind you is knowing how well you are, how fit you are. And that is don't get a chair with casters, get a fixed chair, a dining room chair, preferably with no arms. And what you need to do is try and cross your hands across your body, put your hands, just cross your hands across your body, and then put the weight on one foot, any foot, but one foot. And from the sitting position, stand up on that one foot, avoiding the use of the second foot. Now, if you can get up from that chair with perhaps a little bit of wobble, but you can do it on your own by just simply just standing up on that one foot, and you can do that easily, you are pretty fit. If you cannot do it, or you wobble, or you fall over, or you have to clutch at something, you need to have someone standing beside you, by the way, in case you do feel a bit wobbly, then you're not fit. And that's the secret of seeing how much you do. And if you do that test at the beginning of your exercise regime, and you do that a month or 6 weeks later, you'll see how easy it is to actually stand up on one foot, just using one foot alone. Okay, so mental stimulation, vital for everybody. And it's possible to reduce cognitive decline and memory problems by mental training as well. Vital for you to be mentally well. And the importance of new learning. You need to learn new things, play a musical instrument, read a new book, take up some extra sport, find certain interests, etc. And it has profound physiological effects in the brain. Stress is very important. High and prolonged stress has negative effects, particularly on the human memory. You tend to be forgetful and forget things, even though you may be young. Social life, you need to interact, you need to enjoy, you need to actually have a company, you need to talk to people, and you need to feel a sharpness, and you will actually do that if you socialize for periods of time. And healthy eating, as I say, be rich in food, consumption of fruit, vegetables, fish, they all have a beneficial effect for you now and later in life. And there you see my favorite fish, which is salmon. Okay, think young. Think young. And that is all I have to say today. Now we've got some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Verjee, for that wonderful session. And you're going to ask some questions now from the
Yes, I am.
audience, is that correct?
Yeah. So the first
Okay.
question is, first question is, what's the minimum number of steps advised for walking that I've advised for you to maintain your fitness? The optimum figure. And the poll is going to show the results. When you're ready, Sahila, we can publish the poll.
So can you see the poll, Dr. Verjee? Can
Yeah,
you see
we
the
can see the
results?
poll.
I can't see it myself.
No, we can't see the results, right?
All right. So it's kind of stabilized. So I will go ahead and publish the results.
Okay, good. Okay, so the 6,000 people are correct. Okay, 10,000 is not, 7.5 is not, 5,000. 6,000 is the figure. Next question.
All right. I'm just getting the next question in.
How many minutes should you spend on moderate weekly activity as a minimum? 60, 45, 150, or 100, or as many as you can manage? What's the correct answer? What did I advise you to do on a weekly basis? When it stabilizes, Verjee?
All right. It's stable. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results.
150 is correct. 150 minutes per week is correct. Next question. How many hours sleep should you aim for daily? 5, 7, 9, 7 to 9, or over 9? When you're ready, Verjee.
There's still some answers coming in. All right. The poll is stable.
That's much better. 7 to 9. Very good. Okay. But I'm not sure why there's still a 5 and a 7 there. Okay. Next question, please. Health is what? Physical well-being, mental well-being, social well-being, a priority for all, or all of the above? Only one answer.
All right. It's stabilized. And here are the results.
Excellent, excellent. Very, very good. That's fine. And the last question. The ability to maintain equilibrium when stationary or moving refers to accuracy, flexibility, balance, muscle strength, or agility. Which is the right answer? Only one answer. Balance is the correct answer. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think we have a little bit of time for questions, right?
Yes, absolutely. We have time for questions, no problem. So, Dr. Verjee, thank you so much for that wonderful talk. Of course, very elaborate, focused on physical activity, plus a lot of other things that we need to take care of for our well-being. So one of the questions one of our attendee is asking is, what is the best time relationship between eating an actual meal, not a snack, and performing at least half an hour of moderate exercise or weight training? Should the meal come first or after the exercise? And does protein have to be ingested around exercise time, or it doesn't really matter?
Well, there's several questions there. My
Yes.
advice is to have your regular meal time at regular time. So if you actually have, say, a meal plan at 5:30 or 6, to go ahead and have it, but don't have a full, bulky, double helping meal. Have enough. Certainly, you should include protein. You should include vegetables as well, and you may need some carbohydrates in the form of perhaps a little rice or potato or something like that, but not excessive. And my suggested gap between eating and actually starting physical activity is 2 hours. That allows the food to go into the bowel. But if you actually have a match, say at 7 o'clock, or you plan to meet someone at 7 o'clock, then you just bring your meal forward a little bit earlier to 5 o'clock or whatever. But that doesn't happen every day. So the question also arising from that is, when is the best time to exercise? And that actually is a difference between male and females. They have different optimum times. The answer to that is actually more practical. When is there time to exercise? Well, one of the things I said in my talk, you shouldn't exercise immediately before going to bed. You should leave again about 2 hours, cool down, shower, prepare for bed, and go to bed rested, and not sort of, with your heart pumping away and feeling the stress of the trembling of your muscles there. So yes, food is important. Yes, rest is important. Yes, hydration is important, and you have to hydrate afterwards as well. I don't think I actually mentioned that. But leave a reasonable gap. And certainly you can have, if after you've exercised and you feel a little bit peckish or hungry, you can have a little snack as well before, but not too late before you go to bed.
Okay, great. And just if you could elaborate on that question, give an answer to this question about the protein intake. There's a lot of talk now, a lot of like emphasis now, a lot of like you see fitness trainers, who are basically promoting increased protein intake. At every meal, you should include some protein at least. So what are your thoughts on that? And does that help, with you being more physically active?
The answer to that is you need approximately 1 gram of protein for every ideal kilogram body weight.
Okay.
If you actually are something like 80 kilograms, you need a total protein intake per day maximum of 80. You will lose some protein by some of it being, if you like, metabolized and used up, and you need to replace that. If you eat much more than that, if you have a huge steak or you have a lot of excess protein, the body actually manages to take the protein it wants, and then the excess is converted into fat. Let's say with the sumo wrestlers example, it doesn't give you more muscle. So there's a limit. If you like, the cup is full, we've got enough. Body says, okay, extra stuff coming down, over to fat. So don't starve yourself, but make sure you replace essential protein lost per day. And that is very important. If you don't have enough protein, you will lose weight, lose muscle, and you'll feel weaker and less able.
Right.
The additives there, these wheys and these protein mixes and what have you, etc., up to you. I professionally do not advise them, but I'm not saying to people, don't take them.
Right. And you're referring to the protein powders or protein shakes or whatever else that is available. And even a lot of young adolescents, who are going to the gyms, they're probably, using them to increase their muscle mass.
So just ordinary healthy eating is good.
Right. And Dr. Verjee, another question about, is eating fruits, only fruits at breakfast, a good option, or is that not recommended?
Eating fruit at breakfast is fine. No problem at all about that. But I would suggest you have a little bit of protein as well to get you sort of light up the fire a little bit there, and a little carb as well. So, if you have a cereal or you have a slice of toast or something like that, that's useful as well.
Right. Thank you. Dr. Verjee, again, many people struggle with the concept of physical activity, a lot of excuses. We don't have time, we're busy with work, busy with the family. What strategies or what tips can you give to our audience, where they could incorporate, small bouts of exercise, physical activity into their daily routine?
Well, I think you need to set aside some time when it's convenient to you. I set aside some time early in the morning. I tend to get up and get myself ready, but before I'm fully ready to leave, I do something like 2,000 steps at home, just simply walking around at home. Luckily, we have enough space to do that. But you need to actually plan and get onto it. The last thing you want to do is say, oh, it's 9:30 at night and I haven't done anything yet. And then to race around, when you're tired and you're feeling a bit hungry and you want to go to bed anyway, sort of thing, or you want to watch something on TV, and then try and do it. That's not the right way to do it. So you need to build it into your daily schedule. And you don't have to do 30 minutes in one go. You can do
Right.
10 minutes in one go, and then another 10 minutes, and then another 10 minutes, and that's your 30 minutes for the day.
Mhm. Great. I think that's wonderful. I think that's about all the questions we have. Any other ideas or tips that you can, summarize for our audience before we end the session? Tomorrow is National, Sports Day for Qatar. Any advice?
Well, I think there's going to be a bit of a show at the expo.
Okay.
I hear that there's going to be a food show at the expo, perhaps later on in the
Right.
afternoon.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong in eating as long as you eat healthily
Right.
and you eat sensibly. I'm going to leave it with this, my philosophy.
Mhm.
If you actually gain 1 ounce a day,
Mhm.
every day of the year, you will end up being 25 pounds heavier at the end of that year,
Yes.
okay? Which is something like about almost 12 kilograms. That's not sustainable. You can't keep doing that. But that's
Yes.
an example, and it's just to give you an idea. So 1 ounce doesn't seem very much, but if you do actually have a little bit of a fill up on a day or two of the week, then you have to compromise and eat a little bit less on other days, and you may have a kind of wave where you keep kind of at an average. That's really, I think, all I can. I think I've said everything else, so I hope that's been useful.
Sure. So thank you again for the wonderful session. We would like to thank all our attendees who came to join us for today's session. And we want to wish everybody a very good sports day. We hope that everybody can take some time out, and enjoy themselves with their families or even alone or with their friends. If you have a group of friends, you can enjoy doing some activity. So currently the weather is great also in Qatar. So the perfect time for all of us, to be enjoying some physical activity outside specifically. So thank you, everyone. And inshallah, we look forward to seeing you at our next session in March. And we thank everybody for joining us. Dr. Verjee, grateful to you for doing the session. Today you have a very busy schedule. Thank you for taking the time out again. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and bye for now.